way. Okie doke. So thank you for tuning in this morning. We're having a good month, I believe. I've seen some good news come across the wires. We've got some activity scores I wanted to relate to you. Let's see here. Highest activity, Eustace. Yeah, you're there. Bernice, good. Congratulations. Very active. And Kimberly. Yes. Woohoo. And Sana's back from holiday. So that is always good. We're happy to see her. Also, I think I saw on another email, let me see if I can pull it up here, that we have some other good news from our booking buddies. Some good production here. Top 3 in contacts, Joseph Boggs Ortiz, John Dichos, sorry on the butchering names, John Del Rio, and he's tied with Natalie Wilson. So that's really cool. And then top 3 in total bookings, everyone's cheering. Again, Joseph Boggs Ortiz, you go by all 3 names. That's great. My old friend Levi, and also Chris Lorenzo. So that is cool. Okay, so let me pull up my other stuff here. Get out of that. Pull up your faces. Yes, and my notes. All right. We're going to talk today just briefly and quickly because I have another phone call coming up with an important person named Katrin in a few minutes. You may have heard of her. But we are talking about how to defeat self-doubt like a leader, like a boss. How to defeat self-doubt. Okay? So let me just jump in and say, for some people, projecting confidence and having belief is like second nature. It's not a big deal. You're just like, oh, okay, well, why do we need to talk about this? For others, it's almost like a foreign language because they're plagued by self-doubt. And I know a lot of good salespeople are plagued by doubts, and it's okay, but we're going to talk a little bit about self-doubt today and how to eradicate that. Right. Okay. So here's the deal. Self-doubt sort of laughs at you when you squander your talent. When I first began selling many moons ago, before you all were even zygotes, there's a good biology term. Yeah, before you were zygotes, which anyway, I wasn't sure I could sell. How many of you started off and you weren't sure that you could sell? Anyone like that? You're like, what am I doing? This sounds crazy. But here's how I got rid of some of the doubts and I started to develop a little bit of belief. I looked at my track record in other areas. And since I had done well in school and in athletics to some degree, and I dated a certain number of reasonably good women, I mean, I had confidence from other sectors, which gave me confidence that, you know, if I've done well here, I could probably do well here if I study, if I'm coachable, if I work hard, right? So hopefully that's kind of what helped me. Now there are shelves just filled with books on self-confidence, and they speak to one truth that I wanted to talk about real briefly as we get into this. And that's something you should think about. This is something you might write down and talk about as a group. We seek what we lack. Pregnant pause. We seek what we lack. We pursue what we lack, right? So let me just tell you, my wife, and she's not here, I don't think she would mind this, me sharing this, but her story is this. She was always an achiever from a young age. And when we started dating a long time ago, and I got to know her, her resume, her CV was outstanding. I mean, she was a good athlete. She did all kinds of different sports. She did track. She was a cheerleader at her high school. She got excellent grades. She was valedictorian. And everything she did, she was kind of working hard for it, which is great. But then she decided, you know what, after she sold books with Southwestern, she got more confidence there. And then she said, I'm going to go to medical school and be a physician. And I was like, I see a pattern here that, you know, and I noticed I felt like she was trying to prove something. So we talked about it once, and she said that when she was young, her parents never affirmed her. They never said, good job, we're proud of you. They never came to her games that she competed in. They never, it was really, you know, I came from the opposite sort of upbringing. My parents were always, you know, building me up and telling me I was great. So that's why I have a problem in the other direction now. But my wife was always, I think, trying to prove what she was seeking, what she lacked. She lacked approval and affirmation from the two most important people in her life. So she was sort of compensating for that, you know. And we got married and she kind of stopped at being a doctor. I didn't know if she'd gone on to become governor or run for president or something, but she was very much the achiever, and that was her combating all her own self-doubt. She's very self-critical. So I try not to criticize because I always know she's already doing that for herself really well. Some of you are like that. You don't need criticism because you do such a good job with yourself already. So anyway, you seek what you lack. So let's talk just self-doubt. Let me just give you kind of a quick glimpse into that. Then I'm going to give you some questions on how to face self-doubt with curiosity, and then 5 steps, because I like numbered things that you can write down. All right, so self-doubt is all about this. What it does is it amplifies the volume of your inner critic. How many of you have, do you know what I'm talking about when I say an inner critic? It's always the voice inside you that says, you can't do it. You probably won't make this sale. You may get rejected here. She probably won't let you, you know, you won't book this appointment. It's just this critical inner voice. And that's just self-doubt. It magnifies the criticism that come from other people that kind of makes it worse than it is. Self-doubt whispers, you don't matter, which is not true. You do matter. God cares about you. We care about each other, but you do matter. But your self-doubt kind of creeps in there. It kind of chokes your dreams sometimes. If you have big dreams about the future, self-doubt always causes you to focus on what you're doing wrong, not what you're doing right, right? It prevents you from stretching and reaching bigger heights and bigger goals. It minimizes your strengths. It stops you from speaking up. We're all familiar with that. And there are a couple authors that I read a little bit about, and the quote that kind of hit me reading these articles was, everything you'll ever do as a leader is based on one audacious assumption. And it's the assumption that you matter. And you totally matter. I mean, you matter to your family, you matter to your office mates, you matter to the LGFG team, you matter to your clients. But sometimes we feel like we don't matter. We're just like, what am I doing? I'm not contributing or whatever. So here's how you can face some of those self-doubts. We need to get really curious about our self-doubts. This is sort of a Tony Robbins approach. Rather than wallowing in self-doubts and sort of negative self-talk, if you ask good questions, you get good answers. So here's a question that can help eradicate self-doubt and get you curious. I love curiosity. Number 1, question is, what's the worst thing that could happen? Right? What's the worst thing that can happen? Some of you get really terrified of making phone calls to certain clients, maybe. So you got to think, what's the worst thing that can happen? Right? They could say no. They could deflect me permanently, whatever. So that's a good question to ask, because we tend to build up these fears in our mind that just magnify. I remember when I was selling, there were certain clients calling on that just like, the more I thought about it, the more terrified I became, which is going to come up here in a minute, another question. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, how might I prepare? How might I prepare? How many of you feel like if you're prepared and you know what you're going to say, then when you sit down with somebody and you're doing an interview, it flows so much better. Do you get confidence from that? So some of you need to just prepare better. Maybe at night before you go to bed, pull out your script and read over it again and go, wow, I left out that section. Oh, here's a whole page I didn't do. You know, you're like, So you might prepare a little bit better to erase self-doubt. So here's question 3. What's one small step I can take today? Keyword today. What's one small step I can take today? Because remember this. This is good to write down. Delay is self-doubt's ally. Delay is self-doubt's ally, which means if you put it off, you start to doubt more. I think, what did we call that the other day? We were studying John Maxwell, the law of diminishing intent. Remember that? The longer you put something off that you're kind of worried about, the worse it gets, and the chances of you actually attacking that goes down as time passes. So you tend to continue procrastinating. All right, so what's one small step I can take today? Here's another question. 4, what do I really want? What do I really want? My favorite question. If I ever get to meet some of you in person, I will sit down and that'll be a question I ask you. What do you really want from this whole LGFG thing? What do you want from your life? Because if you know what you want, then your brain, boop, 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 it automatically looks for a way to get you there. But you have to know what you want, okay? That takes care of self-doubt. Here's another question, number 5. What might you try? Which sounds like a weird, what might I try? What can I do differently instead of the same old thing? If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. So what might you try to kind of break out of where you are and become more full of belief? And number 6, this is a great one. This one's the one that helped me so much. So good to take inventory. It's how far have I come? If you take one question from this little call, take that one. How far have I come? How many of you feel like from the time you first started either as a booking buddy, calling people, or as a clothier, calling on people, how many of you feel like you have come a long way in terms of learning curve? Anybody? Good learning curve? Yeah. Because if you could go back and see a video of what you look like when you were starting, it would be really funny. You should get that. Because you were bad. But if you notice how far you've come, see, some of us, our brains are just trained to look for what's not working. This isn't working. This isn't working. I'm not doing this well. And what you need to look at sometimes is take inventory, look back and say, well, how far have I come? And if you don't know, or if your brain is stuck and it's not noticing, then ask your office mate, hey, how far have I come? How have I grown? That's a good question, okay? All right, so let's talk. As we move toward the finish line, there's a good book out there that I'd recommend by Rob Jolles. It's kind of a French name. Jolles. Jolles, I think, I don't know. He's an American. That's not how you would say that in front. Whatever. Jollas. The book is Why People Don't Believe You. Why People Don't Believe You. Available on Amazon. Maybe I could send you the link. But it's a good book because it's all about eradicating self-doubt. It's all about building your belief and your confidence so that others can perceive you as confident and able, and you're trustworthy. Very cool. So if you're like, I can't afford a book, I don't like reading books, I can go through and give you the 5 steps that he suggests, but it would be better if you actually read that book. Ask for it for Christmas. Number 1, first step in his little system is to commit to believing. Commit to believing. There's a whole chapter or 2 on that. He says self-doubt will laugh, but you have to do it anyway. Okay? So believing is massive, and we could spend a whole seminar just on how to build belief. That's huge. All right. Number 2 is, he says, allow yourself to try and fail. Allow yourself to try, allow yourself to fail. He says believing in yourself has everything to do with allowing yourself to try. Now, Maxwell, if you remember this, he said there was a cycle of learning, which was try something new or something, look at the way you're selling, make an adjustment, try something you haven't tried, fail, and then Maxwell says reflect and think about it, make a change, and then try again. Okay? So that's smart. he says the cycle of dumb is try, fail, try, fail, try, fail, try, where you're just like beating your head against the wall, right? Till when you stop, it feels good. You're like, yes, I'm not beating my head against the wall. But you have to try, and then if you make a mistake, go, okay, interesting. Let me get curious about that. What adjustments can I make? Move forward. Okay? So that's step 1 and 2. Step 3, he says, try to see yourself as others see you. Okay? Try to see yourself as others do. Most of you, everybody I see and have met or have talked to are very impressive people, or you would not be doing this career. You understand that? LGFG is not for the faint of heart. It isn't just like, hey, who wants to come sell some suits? Yay, woo, join us. Welcome aboard, everybody. This is not an easy career, but the growth, but that's good. That's where all the growth occurs, all right? But you guys are impressive, but sometimes we don't give ourselves credit. So try to see yourself as other people will see you. And one suggestion, I don't know how you could do this, but it worked for me when we were training and doing sales training in another arena, is we videotaped people in the sales process. So I don't know if you would want to get a secret tiny micro camcorder and stick it in your sample case and record one of your sales calls if you're a clothier, but it would be super interesting to watch you on video. You watching yourself on video is the fastest way to make change in your life that I can imagine. I'm serious, because all of us, some of us have recorded. It'd be easy like to tape record yourself, like doing phone calls if you're a booking buddy. And when you hear your own voice, everybody goes, ooh, I don't like how I sound. But that's how you sound, right? When you're talking, you're hearing your own voice through the bone conduction in your zygomatic arch and in here. But hearing it on a tape recorder is how you actually sound. Now, when you add the visuals by taking a video, like a camcorder, and filming yourself, you watch that and then you can make instant changes. You can go, wow, I really am boring. I can't believe, but you couldn't notice that without actually, if somebody just said, you know what, you're just kind of a little monotone, you might want to change that, fine. But if you actually see yourself being boring and monotone, it's different. You may think you have this great tone on the phone, but when you hear yourself, you go, wow, I sound a little bit weak and not confident. So make sure, if you can, videotape or audio tape yourself. That's a great way to learn. All right, so that's sort of an aside. All right, so try to see yourself as others see you. Number 4, his step is to balance your personal feedback. Balance your personal feedback. In other words, identify 2 areas you did well, let's say after a sales call or after a day or a week, and identify 2 areas you might improve and decide what you want to do. So balance it. Most people, just notice what they're not doing right. Okay? They're like, well, I screwed this up, and I should have closed here, and this would have been better if I'd said this, and I left out this sentence. And so they're going to always notice and pick out what they could improve. But what I'm suggesting, and what this guy suggests in his book, is that you balance your personal feedback with 2 areas you're doing well to catch yourself doing things right, and 2 areas you might want to improve, and then decide what you're going to do, how you can attack that. And 5th and finally, this is easier said than done, but the author says to control the negative voices. Control the negative voices. How do you do that? He says, speak to yourself with the kindness you show others. Speak to yourself in the same tone of voice. Most of us are kind to other people. We're not so kind to ourselves sometimes, but speak to yourself as you would to another person with that same level of kindness. So those are the 5 things, yeah, which are useful. So pick something from that and use it. One of your takeaways may be you need to go buy that book. That's cool. That's a good thing, because it's all about confidence and tone. Right? And he also recommends this. I sort of liked, in closing, he said, don't wait to celebrate. When you've had a victory, even if it's small, don't wait to celebrate, you know? He said, when you struggle, you're not starving for food, you're starving for joy. You need to have little milestones of victories and reward yourself if you've had a good day, or if you've done the right amount of activity in the right direction. So don't wait to celebrate. It rhymes. So questions you can talk about amongst your group. Just have a little discussion when we hang up on how might you all as leaders develop your self-belief. That's a huge topic, important topic. And if you're already a leader, how might you help other people develop their self-belief? Okay? So we had a good discussion yesterday. Anybody have a comment or question or input on this whole topic of erasing doubt? Or do you have a strategy that helps you when it comes to crushing self-doubt? Anybody? I'm going to have some more butterbeer. Okay. Excellent. Good. Stunned silence. Excellent. That is what I like. So much information, you can't wrap your head around it. So this week, be sure to do well, sell suits, because this is the month of November where we're donating, I believe, $10 for every suit we sell to the Booking Buddies and that whole foundation of goodness. It's a good philanthropy, so keep pushing along those lines. And I encourage you to continue to believe in yourself and do not doubt. Okay? So I'm gonna conclude things. You guys have a fantastic week. I will hopefully get to speak to you next week, and I'm gonna go have a feast on our Thanksgiving this week. So enjoy it, work hard, do your best. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.